All right, welcome back. Thank you for listening to our sponsors. We're back with Let's Chew the Gum. Today's episode is a follow-up to season 1, which was entitled White Supremacists Created Black History Month. All right, so this episode we've been taking questions from our audience from around the world. Again, shout out to those in the United States, Ireland, Mexico, the United Kingdom, El Salvador, Germany, Canada, Argentina, Japan, France, Puerto Rico, Belgium, Switzerland, Singapore, Trinidad and Tobago, Cameroon, Russia, and the Czech Republic. So I'm going to get back into the next question that was sent in. This question comes from JL in Michigan. And the question is, it says, you offered or suggested a new party for disaffected whites. How is that helpful? Won't it just split the votes of the major parties? Last week I suggested that I know many folks who are Republican, who are white, who are not racist. I know many folks who are Republicans, who are white, that are avowed racist. I know many folks who are Democrats, who are white, that are not racist. I know many Democrats who are white that are definitely racist. And I said that race has nothing to do with the political party. Political parties don't have ownership on race. We have this narrative where Republicans are racist because of particular leaders. Oftentimes, we forget the fact that there are racists everywhere. What I suggested was, for those folks that have found it quite embarrassing in the way that their government and political parties have acted, those folks that have particular political values that they want to see upheld, but at the same time don't agree with the ideologies of many in their particular parties, I suggested and invited them to form your own political party. And I was particularly talking about white people. Again, I don't even like to use the term white because I, as I've said before, don't think it's a thing. It doesn't exist. And what I suggested was, I even gave a name. Alt-white, as an alternative white, an alternative to what historically has been associated with white. I also suggested it could be called off-white, like the off-white color, whatever. But how is that helpful? And how will that split the votes of the major parties? Sure. But the idea is not to split the vote of the party. The idea is for decent folks to come together to influence the political parties, right? Because once you start taking votes from one or the other, it's going to affect one or the other or both. And that gives them the incentive to re-examine their policies and their approach, to be responsive to those individuals that may have defected from the party. And if a third party happens to come around where that's possible, hey, all the better. It won't be the first time that that's happened. You can look at Teddy Roosevelt with his Bull Moose Party. You can look at Ross Perot with the influence he had. But aside from starting a political party, you can always begin with a caucus. The Tea Party was not necessarily a separate party from the Republican Party, but more of a caucus to influence the party, right? But again, the overall idea is that there are many people who are dissatisfied, embarrassed by the acts and the actions, I should say, of both parties. And there's alternatives. There's a way for you to have a voice, right? There's a way for you to make it known. At some point, you have to draw the line, and people are clamoring and want people to declare, where do you stand? When in times of trouble, where do you stand? I'm beyond this idea of race wars and all this kind of nonsense. There's so many families that are intertwined and so many people that are affected. Can you imagine being a young child or even an adult who has mixed lineage of, it could be, pick the ancestry, European, African, Asian, Native American, what have you. And you hear all this talk about this hatred, and you look at your parents who are diverse. That's difficult. So it's not only that, whites can start a new party, and it doesn't have to be just white people in it, right? I mean, we've had Jewish leaders of the NAACP, etc. But the idea is that there needs to be an alternative for people. And I mentioned that our country, our democracy is far too large for there to be two parties that supposedly represent the ideas and values of all the people, right? It's more than just the left, right, and there's so many intricacies. This labeling is a great cause of destruction and dissatisfaction, right? Because if I say I'm conservative, does that mean I'm Republican? No. If I say I'm liberal, does it mean I'm Democrat? No. There's levels to it. I may be very liberal in my civil rights ideology. I may be very conservative in my economics. I might be very liberal in my idea of what a traditional family is, and I might be very conservative in other areas, right? You have to understand where these ideas come from, and how, people, ordinary people, right? Regular ordinary people were, again, duped and sometimes not forced, but misled into aligning themselves with political parties, again, with individuals that are seeking power and have no real kinship towards you or affection towards you. They just want your vote to remain in power, right? So definitely, I think that a new political party is in order, or again, at least new caucuses, people to be brave and stand up and stand out without the fear that you're alone, because it's this idea of isolation. If you are a Republican and you stick up and stand up for, excuse me, let's say a Black Lives Matter or a women's group or whatever group you want, somehow that you're going to be alone and then ostracized. Well, let me encourage you. There are many others like you. And if you don't have the courage to speak up, you'll never know. So someone has to do it. Someone has to do it. Lead them out of the blind situations that they've been in. So why not you? Talk amongst your friends, get your friends around, get a group of individuals. It can be of your own race or multiple races, and discuss these things. That's the problem that we have, is the lack of, real dialogue. And you don't see the dialogue until it's contentious and folks are fighting over, different ideologies and political stances. So I hope that that helped address your question or concern. This next question comes from Liz, just Liz in the USA. Okay. What about people who want to be racist? What about people who want to be racist and stay amongst their own? Okay. Well, let me say first, again, this idea of racist, because you want to be separated and by yourself on your own, with your own kind, I don't consider that racist. Again, racism is a power structure where individuals wield particular power over situations, whether it's in institutions. Perhaps you're a gatekeeper at an institution, an employer at a job, et cetera, et cetera. Any situation where you have a particular power to determine the outcome or fate of someone else's life or their chosen path, and you intercede and disrupt that or make policies that make that more difficult, and those policies are based upon or are influenced by racial categories. And we can add some other aspects to racism, but if you want to be on your own, go for it. I have no problem with that. Let me say, I have no problem with folks that want to marry their own kind. There's nothing wrong with that at all, in my opinion, right? It's like if I go to a zoo, I want to see, I've said this before, I want to see lions and tigers and other animals, right? And if they're all gone because they're mixed up and you don't get to see giraffes and whatnot, you see what I'm getting at? That's fine with me. But you don't have to do it to the detriment, harm, and destruction of others. Giraffes don't go around the zoo killing off the zebras because they want to just be giraffes. I mean, where's the beauty in that? As you start to eliminate others, where's the beauty? Then everything just looks like you. How boring is that? How boring is that? There's beauty in diversity. There's growth in diversity. There's exchange of ideas and information. And it's a beautiful thing. I know so many people who are like racist, but they love ethnic foods, right? I mean, you don't have to eliminate others or harm others to be yourself. Just be amongst yourself. You don't have to use hate to do that. There's nothing wrong with loving yourself, right? I am definitely, all power to whatever, black power, sure. Brown power, brown pride, sure. White power, sure. If it's powerful for you in terms of your own self-edification, your own self-love, not to the detriment of others. How about pride in yourself? Black pride, white pride, brown pride. Be proud of yourself. Love yourself. You should. But again, not to the detriment to where you have to kill others off or harm others or keep someone from achieving because they have a different color than you, and you're mad at other individuals because they have amassed some form of success based upon their own idea of what success is, but you're mad. And you're mad at them because they're black or whatever color they are. I mean, get over yourself. Do what they did. Learn a lesson from what they did. Take it upon yourself. Take your own advice, right? To do better, to work harder. Don't hate on other people and destroy other people because that's jealousy, rage, and evil, right? So if you want to be amongst and stay amongst your own, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to hate other people and destroy others to do that, though. That just makes you evil. Thank you, Liz. All right. Next question comes from Bo. Hey, Bo. Bo is in the city now, Waukegan, Illinois. Says, what do you mean white supremacists created Black History Month? Wasn't that Carter G. Woodson? Absolutely, Bo. We know that Carter G. Woodson was the individual that started actually Black History Week, I believe in 1926, 1924. Somebody will fact check that. And it was Black History Week. And 1976, President Gerald Ford signed it into the books as Black History Month, right? When I say white supremacists created Black History Month, it's because if it wasn't for white supremacy, all those black folks, all those African American, I tend to say black. African American is multiple syllables, and it, I don't mean to joke about it, but anyway, all those individuals that had invented items, made excellent contributions, beautiful people in situations, oftentimes their contributions were either stolen by whites, undermined by whites, disallowed by whites. And when I say whites, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to those that it was. So don't be out there all offended by that. We have to be able to talk about these things. Recognition wasn't given. And what you saw in the mass media at the time, whether it was radio, television, or whatever, was similar to what you see now. Blacks being put in situations and categories that are often less desirable, right? And that was because individuals were trying to stamp out or make themselves supreme over others, oppressing others, right? You can only press something so much. So Black History Month was an effort to highlight and to showcase the talents and contributions, I should say, of Black folks, because it wasn't happening. There's so many, and you can watch now, so much information comes out about contributions that Black people have made to this country and the world. And to my worldwide audience, I am in the United States. So when I say this country, I'm talking about the United States. But contributions that were made throughout history that were unrecognized, right? If it wasn't for Black History Month, like many people today, we have Black History Month, and there's still people that don't see Black people as more than servants or derelicts or any other derogatory category, right? History books depicted African Americans in those types of ways. People thought African Americans had tails and or monkeys and all these types of things. It's ridiculous. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's as far as the depictions, it's necessary. But right now, I don't want to go on that route because it's pretty disgusting to me. But that's what I mean by white supremacists created it. If it wasn't for the oppression and repression of African American thought, life, and ideology, we wouldn't have to do that. All right, I'm going to take just a couple more questions. Let's see. This is from an aspiring politician in Iowa. Okay, how do you suppose white people like me, who don't consider the Republicans or Democrats as a choice, start a party? Okay, I got this question later, but I think I addressed it. Start with just influencing. Start with gathering people who are like-minded. Discuss, challenge. When you see injustice, you have an obligation to do something about it. So start with like-minded people, whether they're black, white, whatever. If they're like-minded and they have the similar ideology, get together. Start locally in your communities, in your schools, in your school boards, within your schools, your city council, your county representatives, state. Start locally, and find your allies, and then start to build coalitions across your state or your city or country or whatever, of individuals who are like-minded. And it starts with influencing those politicians that are in office. And when you have, you have to build your base. And then when you, the aspiring politician, when you are prepared, ensure people go out and vote, right? Make sure they vote. If you're running, they should be voting for you, right? But you have to put your voice out there. You have to be in the arena, and you're going to take some punches. And that's just part and parcel of jumping into the ring, right? So that's how you can start. It starts as an influence, and perhaps perhaps this idea of a party I'm talking about, maybe it doesn't form a party, but it could be a heck of a caucus, a heck of an influencing portion of the political process or the political arena. All right, but start with your friends. Reach out. Start a podcast, get your information out there, start a newspaper, a blog, or whatever, a YouTube channel. The idea is to get the information out there to counteract what's out there that you don't believe in and what you know is wrong. Okay? Good deal. Threat to a storm is brewing, people. No, literally, a storm is brewing outside my window. I can see and hear the rain and the storm brewing. I love the rain. All right, let me continue on. This question is from the Czech Republic. There's no name associated with it. It says, do you see a parallel between the United States and the Austro-Hungarian Empire? I do, actually. I've taught some courses about that and kind of talked about this before. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, the United States as a country, we were a country, we still are, but we're more of an empire. We have territories, we have brought in, or I don't want to say brought in, that sounds, well, whatever. We have encompassed multiple cultures, multiple territories under the same political banner of the United States. So that makes us an empire, in a sense, just like the Austro-Hungarians. So much Austria-Hungary is what I believe is what he's referring to. Separate countries under one government, or separate territories. At some point, there was lots of, just like the United States, lots of fighting, lots of wars, lots of battles, subversive activities, hatred, et cetera, to the point where eventually they had to separate, in a sense, under various leadership platforms in order to maintain that empire. If you look at the history of Austria-Hungary and you see the battles that took place, it was devastating. I want to go one further and talk about the parallels between the United States and the Balkans, the area where World War I started out, formerly under the Ottoman Empire. And once that died down, you had so many ethnic groups fighting for power and control, whether it was it's again, always over resources. Someone needs more access to water. Someone needs more land space. It's always resources, right? But it got to a point where it was so bad that there's so much infighting. People couldn't get it together to where they ended up destroying each other. That's a different lesson for a different day. I love to teach that history, but we will, have a 5-hour show today. We can definitely put that on the topic for a later show. But I'll say this. Thank you for the question from the individual from the Czech Republic. I'll say this, that if it comes to I've heard many people, separatists, wanting to have their own area within the country. We had a question earlier. What about people that want to be racist? I don't know if they are, and on their own, I don't know if they're suggesting that they have a particular territory in the United States set aside for their particular ethnic group, and folks are all under the banner of the United States, but have their own regions. I don't know if that's what they were suggesting. Here's what I do know. And I'll paraphrase Benjamin Franklin. Either we all work together or we perish together. Now that's a paraphrase of Ben Franklin, not a quote. We all work together or perish together. No one's going anywhere. I mean, for those of you that are filled with hate, I mean, how many people do you think you are going to eliminate before it comes home to you? And I'm not talking about karma. Law of averages, call it what you want. I don't understand it. I don't understand. I don't understand racism. I don't understand racist people. I don't understand when I see racist people out at, I say this a lot, racist people out at an ice cream shop. Like, for me, ice cream is always something you smile about. How do you be racist and eat ice cream at a shop and you're just angry? Someone of a different race walks in and now you're just licking your ice cream in an angry manner, right? You're sitting there with your family. Is your family angry too? Do you pass that down to your children? And are you mad? Do you throw your ice cream down? Do you finish your ice cream and go home or in the car you're spewing a bunch of racial slurs? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I do understand that a lot of people who are in this fashion have been blinded. They have been negatively influenced, and they don't understand or have not been in a situation where war has occurred, loss of life and family have occurred. I don't think any of us really want that. But it's not about what I want. It is about what I can say to help avoid unnecessary confusion and despair. Yeah. Let's get it together. Let's hope we can get it together. I hope this has been useful for you. I look forward to coming back and talking with you next week. You've been listening to Let's Chew the Gum, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything from A to Z. I'm your host, Protocol. Until next time, people, let's work together. Let's think about where we're going and what we want. Reach out to those that are like-minded, and let's see if we can end this institutional, worldwide influence of ugliness. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember, we always have
something for your mind, something for your mind, something for your mind,
정신을 집어넣으세요. 마음에 어떤 것 필요합니까?
something for your
정신을 집어넣으세요.